video was made through thorough long research. So now that it's finally done, we hope you like, subscribe. Hello guys! Welcome to our channel. In today's episode, I'll be talking about the Nordics and the Vikings. Or the Nordic and the Vikings. Now, the Nordics are a very controversial region. By that, I mean not as controversial as the Middle East per se, but as controversial that there's multiple wars over little islands. So now let's try to do this in a summary and learn about their ancestors, the Vikings. Now, let's just say the Nordics have been here for quite a long time. The flag of Denmark have been in use since 7000 BC. Which means that just imagine how many other flags they would have used all the way back then. So let's just say that Denmark is one of the oldest civilizations ever. And, well, speaking of Denmark, the Danish started from this small tribe which were a relative of the Celtics, which lived in the southernmost region. Now, because it was kind of hard to survive, they'll just latch onto all of the lands near ocean, which would be easy to fish from. Now, back then it was super cold in all of the Nordic region, all the way to Russia. So you need to survive with using the warmth of the ocean. And that's why they made ports like that. Let's skip just a few hundred years, and now we see a new type of people, the Sami. They came all the way in the north when the long blizzard, which happened back in Europe, had finally finished. But now they were in a very cold region of all of Europe. And they owned territories of modern-day Norway, Sweden, and Finland. Again, the northern halves, of course, because they were experiencing multiple blizzards. Well, both of them were quite different, as you may have already noticed. Well, let's just call them the Sea Danish. So the Sea Danish made it into southern Norway near 700 BC. And after that, there was now a new Germanic tribe which had just came to existence about 700 years before the attack of Norway. And these guys now wanted to trade with Denmark. After that, Sami eventually became its own thing, and a part of Sami, which was closer to the ocean, joined with another part, Gothenburg, to make Scotland. No, not Scotland. Sweden. Well, both of them have Gothenburg, so you understand my mistake. So, Sweden, a new kingdom, did not exactly like these Germans, but not like they could do anything about it. Right now, they were kind of the smallest version they could. So they invaded the Sami people. Listen, okay, the Vikings had never been peaceful, ever in their entire history. And so, after invading the Samis and winning, they made a new Sami puppet and eventually conquered a lot of modern-day Norway and Sweden. Now they were about the size of here. And then that was when the Sea Danish went into southern Sweden and conquered modern-day Malmö. Now, because Sweden did not exactly own Malmö and owned Visby, an island nearby, the Danish also wanted Visby. And so that was what started a huge conflict between the two. The first out of 6. So what happened was that the Danish invaded Visby and won. But then, after that, the Swedish came with their up-return back for Visby. And you know what happened? They conquered it and conquered southern Finland. So then the Danish were like, hey, we also want Finland. And so they made their own territory called Finnmark over here. And then they were like, oh yeah, we want some more southern territory so we won't freeze to death. And so they got all of this territory for themselves. Cool. And so what happens next, you may be asking? So the Norwegians started their own thing after having multiple different puppets join together and make the Kingdom of Norway. The Kingdom of Norway was short-lived, and the Danish then took over it and made Norway. Eventually changed it to Danish Norway, a much more likable name. So what happens next after all of this? So then this region of Norway remains under Danish rule, while this region remains under Swedish rule. Then they invade into modern-day Finland, and then the Kievan Rus becomes a thing. Skip a few centuries, and now we see that the Germanic kingdoms have now to start bordering modern-day Prussia. This is also when, at the time, the Prussian kingdom was like this very small kingdom. HRE becomes a thing, and now it was going to be the last days of the Germanic kingdom, which the kingdom of Sweden, who really didn't like them at the beginning, as you may note, invaded them, killing them. Yeah, it wasn't exactly the best rivalry, and they took over Estonia because of it. Kievan Rus turns into Russian Empire after near 70 years. And then after that, they beg the Swedish to please give them Lithuania. The Swedish, who are like, hey, we don't really own everything of Lithuania. Most of it is just Polish Lithuania. Polish Lithuania was kind of the big buff guy back then. So the Kievan Rus, aka the small Russian Empire, didn't want to have nothing with them. Until they became thrice its size and then invaded it with the help of Prussia and Austria-Hungary. Skip a few years again, and then we have the fact that now there's the German Empire, the Austrian Empire, and the Russian Empire. Now, if you don't understand what's happening right now, the year is 1912, and it's about to become the Great War of 1914. As much people understand it as World War I. And Sweden wasn't really involved in World War I. It joined Norway slightly after that, and this marks the end of the Viking Age. Yeah, sorry you guys. It's the end. And so now we only have the Nordics. So what happened next after the World War? After Sweden and Denmark beat it out until both of them ended up losing Norway, Norway becomes an independent nation in 1920. A long time after the World War. And after getting their independence, the Norwegians were only to get captured by the Germans in 1938 in the World War. The second one. And after that one, the Axis powers were defeated, and Sweden wasn't really involved, but Denmark ended up entering Germany's hands. What was the peace treaty next? Well, Sweden got Malmo for some reason, even though Denmark did nothing to Sweden, and Germany kind of lost everything. So what happens to Denmark and Sweden now? Well, Sweden is now a nation over here. Hey, look at this. Finland's independent. Wait, what happened? So meanwhile, what was happening to Finland the entire time was that they were under Swedish rule, then under Danish rule, then under Russian rule for a lot of World War I, until becoming under German rule after World War II, getting split into Karelia and this very Russian region, after that entering the Winter War with the Soviet Union, and then getting protected by, well, Sweden and some other allies, and eventually winning the war against Russia. Yeah, so Finland was having a hard time. But now let's just zoom in a little bit. Oh, what's there, you say? This is the Islands. Very controversial, actually. So the Islands are a region between Sweden and Finland, and before Sweden had full claim to it, after they kicked out the Danish, and now that the Finnish were independent, they wanted the Islands as their own territory. But the Swedes did not believe this and considered it as Swedish territory. This was what started a huge conflict between the two nations. Not that huge, actually. It's more of a proxy one. So Sweden put troops in Islands. Finland called the UN. The UN told Sweden to accept the fact that this had been finished, even though Sweden had owned it for many years. And Swedish still disagreed to believe that it is now finished, and Finnish disagree to believe that it had Swedish history. And so, that is the real problem of the island. What I prefer, you may ask? I believe it should be its own nation. But that's only in my dreams. Now that's a quick summary of what is here, here, and here. What about this, and this? Well, what are those, you say? Now this is Denmark and this is Denmark. I'll explain about them and how they came to become Denmark, including this huge chunker. But then we have Iceland. Iceland is one of the nations which used to be under Danish rule until World War I ended, and then the World War II happened. Then they got kind of independence for some time, and then autonomy, and then independence fully in 1931. After that, Germans tried to attack them. The Icelandish quickly explained to the Germans how they're not part of the Entente, not the Allies, nor any team that should be against them. And so Germany spares them. After that, it's kind of like Iceland and Denmark are very good friends, and then these islands, which could have become the situation of the island, called the Faroe Islands, was given to Denmark as Iceland has zero manpower. Yeah, before they were one of the nations which had no armies. So what happened next, you may ask? Well, they kind of just peace out and become one of the cleanest and happiest nations ever. Yeah, they have the best water, by the way. Go to there if you have time. It's quite a great place. Then we have him. Who is he? Now this is Greenland. Greenland is part of Denmark, as you can already see. It is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, which is made out of Denmark, the Faroe Islands, and Greenland. And because of this, it has a large maritime border and barely shares one with Canada. And so, what is Greenland? So Greenland is this huge island which was discovered by Danish Vikings before, and they got all of this sudden land and said that, oh wow, look, it's all green. Before it was not ice cold, so they called it Greenland. And when they went to Iceland, which was super cold back then, they said, oh man, this is freezing cold, let's call it Iceland. But now, because it's no more 1,000 centuries back in the past, it now seems like this makes no sense why they call it Iceland and this Greenland. But stay with me, okay? Spare the Danish. This was the world they lived in before. And so after that, they annexed all of Greenland after World War I, and then after that, they lost Greenland to the Germans. After that, the Americans liberated Greenland, and after the World War, then they became independent. Greenland remained part of Denmark. There are a lot of Greenland people who want to be independent from Denmark, or at least get a little bit of autonomy, which they have a lot. So I don't know what exactly else autonomy they want. But that's just a quick summary of everything. And you can see why we're controversial now. So, that is a quick summary of what is the Nordics, the Vikings, their history, the reason they exist. And this video was made through thorough long research. So now that it's finally done, we hope you like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and share to other people who do not know. This took us a lot of time and energy. And bye guys, and have a happy day.